All right, I'm in my garage here, and my electric bike doesn't get used that much because it only carries one person. But I'm going to change that, and this might be a terrible, terrible mistake. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter von Panda with my electric bike here. I actually love this thing because it's a tricycle by Viribus. I think that's how they pronounce it. But it's actually been awesome. I've used this thing with the basket to move pumpkins, some yard waste around. I really like it. But one of the things that I don't do that often is actually carry stuff when I really want to carry people, like another person. I've got a lot of spaces here between the house. You know, the other day there was a party down at the other end of the street, and so I wanted to take this, wanted my wife and kid to ride with me, but couldn't do it. So I just had to leave them here and enjoy the party myself. Oh, the Coors Banquet on ice. That is so delicious. But one of the things that I wanted to do here was make it a little more useful and get it out from underneath these boxes here, take off the basket and install another seat. Now, this is not meant for that. So this could be dangerous, lethal. It could open up a portal to another dimension, maybe suck in the whole universe that we know into a black hole. So all of that's totally possible. But me losing a finger or something like that is probably the most probable thing. Now, the way I'm going to do it is hodgepodging a bunch of stuff that doesn't go together. So let's get the bike out and let me show you what I'm thinking. All right, so here's the bike, and some of these actually come in a rickshaw type of format where it can tell that the wheels are pushed way back and there's a seat and your legs kind of sit forward. But obviously, because the axle is so close to the seat here, there's nothing I can do about that. So what I've got here is the answer, and this is just a plastic hard case. I think it's like 18 inches by 14 inches, something like that, not that big. But as you can see, it fits obviously inside of the basket here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the basket and then mount this actually on the base. And that's going to give me a little elevation. It's also going to give me a little storage. I could put some stuff in there. You know what I'm saying? Some lemon heads, those types of things. And then right here, I actually ordered this seat. It actually says heavy, kind of like finding out much later that your sister is actually your mother. Heavy, dude, heavy. But this is actually a seat off a tractor, and I thought this would be good because I think it has a seatbelt, it has arms, the back folds down, so I could put the back down, I could open up the case, put stuff in there, so I thought that might be the best option. It looks like it comes with a couple rails. Hopefully they will be able to mount to this, so I don't know. Obviously, I haven't even opened it up, so couldn't tell you for sure, but that's what we do here. We just experiment at the Panda Research Institute looking for innovations. Basically, how can we red-green stuff into existence? So let's get on it, get the basket off, get that on, and then see how badly we mess this up and if I end up with all of my digits. Phalanges. All right, so I'm going to be as smart about this as I can. I've got the basket here. You can see it's loose. There are these brackets that hold it on. I'm going to reuse those. But what I've noticed here is I don't have a lot of space before I would hit the seat here. So I'm going to have to drill the holes in the case as far back as possible to kind of move that case forward. That means it's going to kind of be balanced mostly on this bar here, but I think all that weight should be kind of pressed down there so it won't be tippy that way. But I wish there was a little more space between the seat here because I've got to mount the box here and then the seat is going to have some sort of cant to it, right? So it's going to be a little close. Man, I wish this were a little longer back here, but that's what she said. All right, everything is tougher than I expect. In fact, I drilled the holes in there, which was fine, but then I actually had to bend these brackets because I put the hole so close to this back wall. But I finally got the box in, and so far, I don't even think that's half of it, but we'll just keep moving forward until the whole thing is wrecked. All right, so I unboxed the chair or the seat and everything comes with no instructions. I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. Brackets here for the folding down back. You can see the bolts in there for the arms. There's the seat belt, so I assume maybe it clips to one of those bolts. I don't know, but there's no instructions. Now, I was just looking at the rails here. They don't seem to come off, and so what I think I have to do is use these more inboard holes and just find some bolts that are going to work here. And it looks like I can kind of fit them in those tracks there. So it's probably going to require a run to Home Depot, as well as masking out some more holes. The one thing I will say about this plastic, it's hard to tell when you're ordering this stuff, but because it is plastic, you can see kind of the little plastic film here. The ones that are polyester seem to be a little bit more robust. This is maybe a little more flexible than I would like, but it's what I got. Okay, so these rails don't come off, which probably they shouldn't. Here's the adjustment rods so they can slide back and forth. So you're gonna have to slide them all the way back to kind of mount the rear holes, and then slide it all the way forward with the seat all the way back then to put bolts in the front holes. No bolts come with it. I was gonna use this piece of paper to outline where the holes need to go on the case. I'm gonna need a little bigger piece of paper or tape a couple sheets together here. All right, one of the things that I want to point out about this is that we have all the hardware bracketry, and I've kind of put it up. These bolts were actually in the seat here, but the bolts that would go down here, and these are the problem ones because there's no threading for bolts. I didn't see any bolts. It's possible I lost them, but I kind of think that they never came with anything. So I actually bought some M10 bolts here and the associated washers. These are hex head, button head, so that I'm gonna kind of put them facing out so that the button head is on the inside so it doesn't cut the seat or wear the seat any more than it needs to. But I've kind of been nickeled and dimed here into buying a bunch of little random stuff. So hopefully that works, and then we can get the bottom here connected to the bottom seat cushion, and hopefully that's all we need. But we'll see here in a minute. All right, I finally finished this thing up. There are some problems. So the first thing is I've got that case right there. I've got the seat on top of it. And when I went to sit down on the seat for the first time, I flipped the bike all the way vertical. Disappointing. I don't know what that says, but it's really the case of the seat, and especially when you're kind of getting on the seat for the first time, you're getting on this front edge and it's pretty far forward of the axle. So you're kind of rotating it depending on how much weight you're putting on it. So what I've done here is I've slid the seat back as much as possible. The little adjustment bars right there. I've actually cranked this to go a little bit vertical so that I can get it up against the seat here. And now it's generally centered. I can get on it without it flipping over, which is, I guess, nice. The other thing you could do is whoever's driving the bike could get on it first to help counterbalance it. But, you know, if you're not thinking about it, this person jumps off, this part flips over because this person is still buckled in or whatever. It could be a mess, but that's one thing you've got to keep in mind. The other problem here is now with the seat pushed back, you can see how close it is. I can get my hand in here, but I was worried about now this seat not being useful, you know, or not being able to sit in it. It's really not a problem. I guess what I realized is when you're sitting on a bicycle seat, you're kind of lean forward just a little bit, lean into it a little bit so that you can get the handlebars up there. So you're not really sitting straight up or leaning back, you know, it's not like a cruiser, I guess, but you can certainly accommodate this, and that's not really that much of a problem there. I also like that these flip up, kind of designed to do that. I actually ordered some shields to cover the spokes there. I'll probably still put them on, but one thing I've noticed here is that you're pretty high up. I was worried about kind of hanging arms or something like that and fingers getting stuck in the spokes there. I don't really think that's going to be an issue, but when I get those covers, I'll put them on anyway, just to keep any dangling shoelaces or something from getting in there. Now I've just got to get the battery charged up here and take it out and see if we tote multiple people around with this electric tricycle. All right, I'm out here with the bike, and I actually took her for a ride. I put my wife and my kid on the back seat here. It actually didn't flip over. I think I've got it centered over that axle good enough that we don't get as much torquing, although it did feel a little light on the front end until I got on. So once I got on, then I'm just lucky the thing didn't collapse, but it certainly wasn't going to flip over then. And we drove around, and I realized I didn't shoot any footage of it because I was more concerned about just steering and keeping everything safe and listening for any creaks or like suspect rattles or anything like that. But it worked pretty good. I'm glad this thing has a seatbelt because one of the comments was, there's nothing to hold on to. I can't see the road. Oh, I fell out. A car ran over me. I can't feel my legs. So it's nice to have this because it will just hold in whoever you have back here, and it gives them a little bit of extra security. We also still have some storage down there, so I don't really think that I'm going to be able to open and close this very easily. So I will probably put the power cable for the bike in there. Just because then I don't have to fold this all the way down. I can kind of crack it open, grab that power cable in and out, and it's always with the bike. So this thing now, instead of being a one-seater with a basket, it's now a two-seater technically, and it just depends how many people you can put on each other's laps. I know I like riding on a lap on a really bumpy washboard road. It's one of my favorite pastimes. So I have now turned this into like the world's worst backwards rickshaw ever, but it works. So now I can kind of go down the road, take people, burn electricity as opposed to just burning gasoline and, you know, my steam car, those types of things. So I'm not suggesting you do this. This is probably pretty dumb. It's probably a waste of money, and it probably won't last very long, but I did it. It works. I'm super proud, and I may just give myself a trophy. So that's it. It works. Did it. Now, having done that, I might look for an alternative, something that's a little more comfortable. But in the meantime, I've got transportation for the whole family. Peter Von Panda, out.